Hello. It's another Mini Monday. We're going to look at some mini Bowie knives today. We saw this one recently. It got Captain Electro interested, and so he cracked out a vintage mini Bowie that he has, and that put me in mind of this one, which I have, my suspenders carry knife. And that led me to conclude that I really ought to make a Mini Monday mini Bowie, but I only had two mini buoys, or potentially three, it later occurred to me. And so I had to make one to, well, for all the reasons really, I had to make my very own mini buoy. So we'll have a look at this one as well. But we'll start by doing a quick recap on the Rough Rider, since that one comes without a sheath, which is a matter regarding which I could go on at length, but suffice to say, they should have really offered it with a sheath, shouldn't they? Anyway, that aside, pretty cool wee knife, and might make a sheath for this one, and I may be doing a custom performance grind on one for Captain Electro with sheath, possibly. Not we haven't clarified yet on that particular item, but we have nickel silver, butt, guard, bolster, well, bolster area, because yes, it's on a full tang here, so I guess this is peened on and invisible pins, and you got your 6 nickel silver pins here, so we're talking minimum 8 pins on this thing, I guess, and yes, nicely appointed, right, with the yellow bone and good and shiny and everything. I don't care that much for all the etching, but that's what you get, isn't it? .440A, I believe. Sharpened up okay. I put this kind of apple seed edge. This is mucky, but just goes to show that it does get used as a knife on occasion. Only recently, really, I guess, actually, because I kind of cracked it out because of the whole mini knife thing. But I had begun sharpening earlier, and I think you could, it's pretty thick in the grind. Not so thick in the stock, but thick in the grind, so could be modded to suit one's tastes in all kinds of ways. I did think about deleting the guard, but I realized that it does actually offer a good purchase. Otherwise, you don't really have much of a handle. So, and there's your balance point as well. That's quite nice. Right on the guard, pretty much. So let's move on to this one. It's a bit different from the others on the table in that it's about, what would you say? I mean, volume-wise, it's about 100 times bigger than them, maybe. I'm not even kidding. Look at that. I mean, I guess 100 times could be an exaggeration, but actually maybe not. Yeah. Beautifully made knife from Justin Richards, a New England maker, so not too far from me. Got this a few years ago, and I barely ever used it. I carried it to start out, and I used it a bit, but I kind of along the way, I think this helped me to figure out that I really like the kind of puko setup, on with the handle and the blade. I think a blade that is a little slimmer in this direction, where the also where your fingers kind of line up with the cutting edge rather than being behind here. And this, I can't really get on with this handle shape that well. I figured it must be good because of how beautiful it is, but it does have these sharp angles here. I could refinish it, I guess, to suit my hand better. But it also seems that would be kind of a shame because of the wonderful sculpting job. on this stabilized and dyed burl wood. Can't tell you what kind of burl at this point. But yeah, it's, for a collector, it's a nice one to have. And maybe I'll come around to using it for other kinds of tasks than my kind of woodworking and EDC type thing. I think that this for game processing or something like that could be good. Could be really good. And I was also doing some box cutting recently with a knife. There was a folding knife in this instance, but it had this kind of, this kind of shape to the blade with a much wider down here at the heel and forward of your index. And actually, I found the way that worked with that knife, which is the best tech. Yeah, that was good. So that's the Justin Richards mini Bowie. This thing is kind of tends to want to stick to everything else. So put that over there. Now, this one, as a rule, rides on my suspenders. In fact, it's been on there on the same pair of Carhartt suspenders, the kind of leather tab ones with the buttons, to go on buttons. Yeah, so it sits there on my kind of left kidney area, and is generally fairly inaccessible and not a very useful knife compared to what I'm usually carrying on me. So it's kind of talismanic, but it just rides there. Didn't fall out yet. But this is also kind of part of the motivation. I thought, sooner or later, this leather's going to go or something's going to pop. And I don't want to lose this knife. I gather Jimbus Maximus also has one of these mini Bowies from back in the day. Captain Electro's Ideal Knife Company. This one is just USA, but may well have been, in fact, because I was reading about Ideal Knife. And I think that maybe some of their knives were also just badged USA. So this could have been made by Ideal Knife Company. And it has these kind of hollow bolster and butt attachments that are kind of attached with these tabs well on the back there. I'm not really clear on how this is all put together, but you know what? Looking at it through the camera really helps to see how it's actually done. There, okay, I see the tab, right? So these look like maybe steel liners, and if it's a different cut, if it's maybe a stainless steel, that could be explaining this rust here, but the rust could also be if this is celluloid. I don't know what it is, but I don't know what the material is, but it is gorgeous. Try and keep my filthy nails out of the picture. It's kind of difficult to film this stuff, but you get the notion, right? One of these old handle scale materials that they don't make them like they used to. And it's interesting because, of course, this was done back in the day for reasons of budget. But if nowadays that were necessary for reasons of budget, then they would probably be making the Rough Rider like that. I don't know, but it seems like there's a lot of artifice that went into this, in order to save on materials or whatever it is, save on labor, I guess, save on all kinds of things. The sheath seems to me always like it was done the wrong way around, like it was a left-handed sheath. But I think that actually because of the low point, and this is not the original blade shape. Sadly, it used to be not all down to the end there, but it used to be significantly longer. It was maybe down to here. And I took this to a belt grinder, and I burned the point once, twice, thrice, I think, before I realized how stupid I was being, how incredibly stupid. And so I don't want to lose this, at least until I was thinking try and make a replica. But actually to make a precise replica would be so much work. Imagine, I mean, to make a precise replica of this would be absolutely absurd. And then what had occurred to me just now, because this is take 4 of this video for Mini Monday episode 4 with 4 mini buoys, coincidentally. Not quite 4 in the morning yet. Oh, just gone 4 in the morning. Well, fancy that. The stars aligned on this Mini Monday morning. Reblade, right? Wouldn't that be the ultimate? Wouldn't that be the ultimate? Figure out to the best of my abilities and creative whateveries how this blade would, could, should have been at the outset and make it in, I don't know, say 52-100, and then painstakingly remove the accoutrements and attach them and reblade. That would be epic. Maybe I'll get around to it one of these days. Who knows? Stay with me. And so I had to make my own mini buoy. Did I say that already? I did in one of the takes. I had to make my own, right? Just for whatever reasons. And this is it. This is how it came out. There are some firsts for me here. First rainbow stitching on a sheath. First full guarded knife. First buoy knife. First copper pin. Not my first epoxy putty butty, but that's a kind of a temporary thing, pretty much. I stuck it on there. I'd have to tell the whole story. Well, it's not that long a story. I needed to adjust the fitment, the fitment of the blade to the handle. Made the hole in the handle a little too big, and so to adjust the fitment, I made myself a ball of this epoxy putty, and I had a load left over, so I put it in there. And I was doing this to fit the blade, so I figured, well, that might be smart, you know, prevent the end from cracking until I put something better on there. And the guard actually came from one of these little thin blade blanks, so it's not perfectly fitted, and as a result now there is a bit of wiggle. Possibly that could be resolved by whacking it with a hammer, but also what happened was that when I put the pin in, I struggled with the pin. I found some of this copper wire, and I was, peening the mushroom, and when I was peening the mushroom, it was just doing this, right, in the vise. No matter how I clamped it, it would just bend. And then I realized, oh, okay, this is old copper wire. It's pretty tough. I need to anneal it. And the annealed one is like putty by comparison. It's really bendy. So that worked a bit better, but it was still getting bent. It's still kind of bending out of shape. And so I think the pin inside here, it's done like a like that, and pulled the handle so that it was no longer fitted. There was this gap here. And so the gap, I took some of this stuff and just wrapped it in there nice and tight, threw the thing in mineral oil. And the handle's on super tight, but yeah, you got a bit of wiggle from the guard. But I think later, it's all kind of coming together slowly. Yeah, I should have explained this way better, because the way I built this one was also kind of unique. I made it kind of like a takedown. Well, I kind of half explained, because I was taking the blade out and putting it back in the handle, so I could take the blade out and work on it, or I could work on the handle without the blade on it, or I could put them together and make sure that everything was lining up along the way. So everything is nicely aligned. Let's check out this distal taper, by the way. Did we already look at the distal taper? We did in one of the takes, and the remnants of the original straight razor hollow grind. A Genco $3 razor. On the tang on this side it said Genco USA, and on this side it said $3. This is probably worth about 30 now, but just owing to inflation. Even though there's only half the steel left or less. The tang also mimics this. The tang inside is a full taper down to a couple of fingernails thickness down here, and that was the original pinhole from the straight razor tang. So yeah, I couldn't resist, had to put the pin in, done this dislodging thing, but later I can redo this exact thing but with epoxy and fill these gaps with epoxy. Maybe tap it with a hammer as well. All kinds of things I could do. I can also just drill this pin out and take it to bits, and if I want to do a full mirror polish all the way past the this ricasso thing here, looking through the camera, it's a little messy. Also, it's not finished. This is 200 grit. I just wanted to get it running, and I figured, it's so thin down here. Why keep grinding at this stage? All of these lines will sharpen out. Maybe later I'll do a mirror polish. But actually, really also, more than anything, I think I'd like to make some more of these. I had a lot of fun. And I've been using this. And it's actually a very usable little knife. Again, the deal with this guard is that it actually gives you good grip positions for using the knife. Like, for example, a guard on a Bowie knife, even on this kind of this is not comfortable here, right? This is risky even. Or you get down, yeah, you can do it, right? But if you've got a guard there, that can, depending on the layout, right? That kind of stuff can get in the way. Also stop you from getting your thumb on the spine here. But when it's this tiny, there's no problem getting your thumb behind, on top, right in the middle. You can grip it here, there, anywhere. Any kind of grip works just fine. Tiny mini knife, but very useful. This will cut your boxes. This will cut the cheese very nicely. I've experienced... Oh, no, wait. No, I was using a mini auto knife for that. I'm getting all maxed up. But yeah, this will do it. I don't think the steel is really great. It's not as good as the Soling and straight razors. But for a prototype, just fine. And it'll cut something. Just cut this super glue box here just to show that it'll cut, Nice clean cut. Probably the sharpest knife on the table at the moment. It will not cut a kitchen roll yet. This has been Mini Monday, episode 4. I made it through. Take 4. I think I can really relax now. I can really relax and think if there's anything else I want to say. I remembered to fully purge the memory of all my previous takes this time. I could probably go on for another 2-3 minutes before it cuts out on me again. So let me take this opportunity to thank my 755 at last count subscribers for subscribing to this channel. Really appreciate it. I'm just really enjoying collecting and using knives and making videos about it. And I like to continue, and I like to get better at all of these things, actually, as well. And so by lending me your attention, you're helping me a great deal. I suppose. That's how I feel about it. Thanks for watching.